Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Plymouth Select Board meeting, Tuesday, November 1st. If you would please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Select Board has been in executive session since 5:30, and we'd like to welcome our Planning Board that is with us today, 3 gentlemen in front of us, and I believe we have someone online. And this is according to our stature, our charter, that says that we meet at least once a year. So welcome Mr. Grandy, Mr. Mann, and Mr. Bulletin.
Thank you.
We're going to change up the agenda a little bit. The first order of business is we have an Eagle Scout that would like to do a quick presentation. So this is Aiden Bazinski. Mr. Bazinski?
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
All right, thank you. Should I share my screen for my presentation?
Sure. You may want to speak up a little bit, too.
Okay.
Okay. We have your presentation all set, so we'll play it now.
Okay. All right, so hello, my name is Aiden Bazinski. I am working on my Eagle Scout project proposal, and I am proposing that I work on the Ready Blooding Pond Cemetery fence as a replacement for the community. I'm a Life Scout with Troop 1620 from Plymouth. I've been in scouting for 9 years, and I'm currently working on my Eagle Scout ranks, which requires a service project. And that's why I'm here tonight to propose my Eagle Scout project with this quick slideshow. I appreciate you taking the time to look at my proposal. I would like to replace the fence around the Reading Bloody Pond Cemetery located near 794 Long Pond Road. As you can see in the picture down below, it is a very rundown fence, and it has been for years. The cemetery dates back to 1851, and I would like to replace the fence not only to show respect to the people buried there, which includes 2 veterans, but also improve the appearance of for the community. My plan, if approved by the board, would be a council sign-off. Then I would have to be doing fundraising via social media. I have materials, which would be specified wood, hardware, paint, all approved by Mr. King. Safety, I would need to call it Dig Safe, and I'd utilize signs, cones, vests, because we're working on the side of the road. And then the time frame, upon getting full approval, I would start fundraising immediately, and construction of the fence replacement would be taking around in the springtime. And I'll be working close with Mr. King to make sure it meets all the local requirements. Thank you again for taking my Eagle Scout proposal into consideration.
Thank you so much, Aiden. Do the board have any questions or comments? No? No?
Sure.
Well, we know John's an Eagle Scout, so he's got to say something, right?
Great presentation, Aiden. And I'm assuming Derek, there's been some sort of communication with Mr. King on this project?
Yes.
Yes, the department's fully involved.
Okay, fantastic. So the fence that exists now is not of any historical significance, and obviously removing it and replacing it in a project like this is not going to create any problems.
That's correct.
Okay. Aiden, I wish you the best. Great job on the presentation, and when you get to the fundraising part, don't be afraid to reach out to the board.
Thank you.
Great. Oh, Charlie?
Aiden, I'd just like to commend you. It's good to see our youth appreciating and respecting our veterans and in our history. So I commend you for what you're doing. And
Thank you.
You should be proud to be an Eagle Scout. It's a lot of work. And I've been lucky enough to present some proclamations at some of your ceremonies. And it's a very proud group, so I commend you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Derek, do we need to motion this? Yes. Okay. Harry?
I motion that we accept Aiden's proposal for the fencing at Reading Bloody Pond Cemetery.
We have a motion by Mr. Helm, seconded by Mr. Blitzer. Discussion? All those in favor? Mr. Quintal?
Aye.
Unanimous. Congratulations, Aiden, and good luck. Let us know if you need
Thank you.
anything.
All right, I will. Thank you.
So, Derek, I'm going to kind of deviate from our agenda because I would like for you to bring the board and the public up on our migrant status that we've received quite a bit of emails, and I think we need to get some clarification for folks, please, if you would.
Sure. So thank you for allowing me to do this. I feel like it's most appropriate for me to speak at the podium today, given the sensitivity of this issue that we've been working on for the better part of a week now. Just so it's clear, so you probably have seen a lot of Facebook posts. Some of them I'd say are inappropriate and nasty to a certain degree, criticizing the town and other local officials for their quote-unquote operation of relocating migrants here in town. So I think it's important to say publicly, and we tried to articulate this last Thursday during our press conference in this room, that this operation was spearheaded by the Department of Housing and Community Development. That's a state department. They had notified me last Tuesday evening around 8:30 p.m., and they had stated to me over the phone, and I'll quote them, "We just procured 27 hotel rooms in town." Those 27 hotel rooms are split amongst 2 different hotels here in town, in which they plan to relocate migrants to this community. And they laid out what I thought was a really good plan of an organization they were going to work with that would provide wraparound services. They were still working on a plan for who would be the medical provider, and they had stated that evening that they'd be connecting with our school department on education needs. And as you can imagine, the events that had taken place in Kingston and Methuen started to grow, and the media started to pay close attention to what was happening not only in Kingston, but in Plymouth. And so we started asking a lot of questions. Our fire chief, our police chief started asking questions of what the state's plan was. And quite frankly, they didn't have a plan, although they thought they had a plan on Tuesday evening. So we've been able to work with the organization that the state had contracted with to provide these services, and that's an organization called NeighborWorks. NeighborWorks has been contracted by the state to provide food, clothing, and case management, so certain social wraparound services. The state also hired a security firm to provide security at these 2 locations, and then, by the end of last week, they were able to identify Harbor Health as the medical provider for these individuals. So what role did the town play and continue to play? Really not much. What we've been trying to do is really try to interject ourselves in that conversation, not to provide services, but so much that we have a sense of what's going on in this community. Again, this is a direct business transaction between the state and NeighborWorks and had nothing to do with the town. Since then, we do believe that they've been working with the school department. We know that there are at least 11 school-age children here in town, 24 total children, 12 families are now here in town, and starting to receive those services. We have since migrated and have identified Christian Horvath, who is our emergency management director. He's our a lead on this and our point of contact with state officials. And he's also been working with NeighborWorks to establish a donation system here in this community. Because for the most part, the quiet majority in this community want to help. And we've started to see that when folks have been calling Town Hall and calling a lot of the other town buildings on what they can do to assist. So we've established a donation system. One is here in Town Hall, the other location is at the library, and the last location is over at the Emergency Management Department down at the Cedarville Fire Station. Chris Horvath has been collecting those donations. He actually dropped off a set of donations to NeighborWorks today to assist them in their need. So two things before I end. So one, I was told by the state that this operation would end on January 1st, 2023. That was last Tuesday. We had a webinar yesterday with the Lieutenant Governor and a number of other state officials where they had stated for the first time that they are expecting the number of migrants to be requiring emergency housing over the next 12 months to double. I'm not saying it's going to double here in Plymouth, but what they're saying across the state, they're expecting the need to double. They're starting to see an influx of what they determined as migrants, asylum seekers, and refugees. So any one of those legal statuses are arriving here in Massachusetts, and this is a right to shelter state. We are one of only 2 states in the nation that have a law, the right to shelter, and this law, in some, requires the state to shelter any homeless family in Massachusetts. And New York is the only other state that has this law. So that's where things stand. We will continue to engage state officials on this issue. We'll continue to provide updates when and if necessary. But I can tell you, though, Senator Sue Moran, Rep. Muratori, and Rep. Lenatra, they have been front and center on this issue from day one. They call me and others on a regular basis to ask what we need. They have insisted that the state provide the answers that we're looking for. And so, again, I appreciate everything they have done to try to help us, understand this growing need in the community. So I'll end there. Happy to answer any questions, but thank you for giving me the time to provide this update.
We appreciate the update, Derek. Thank you. And as we move along, so there is a planning board appointment, and I don't know if, Mr. Grandy, you need to bring your board to session, or?
Yes, I can certainly do that. The planning board meeting scheduled for this evening is now in session. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman. This meeting is a joint session with the Planning Board to fill a vacancy. The term expires April 1st, 2023. There are 2 candidates, a Mr. Carl Donaldson and a Mr. Scott Hokinson. Is Mr. Donaldson here? Would you like to say anything, Mr. Donaldson?
Yes, please. Thank you, select board members, for your time. My name is Carl Donaldson. I am fairly new to Plymouth. I've been living here for 3.5, going on 4 years. I am a resident of the Manamint area, and I currently sit on the Manamint Beach Shores Association board. So some of my experience includes working for the Department of Interior as an administrative admin at the Frederick Law Olmsted National Historical Site, as well as the John F. Kennedy home site. While working on my master's degree in city planning from Boston University, I had the pleasure of working on some educational and consulting projects. Some of these projects include feasible analysis of projects for future development in the Back Bay area of Boston, as well as consulting projects for the New Bedford Metro Bridge and Greater Quest Center District. I also worked on a work development plan for the city of Medford, a planning and transportation analysis project for Boston University Green Line, and I also had a week-long sustainability trip to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. If approved for this position, I will work with the current planning board members to make decisions based on data, zoning, regulation laws, and the town master plan and vision. The city of Plymouth needs, the city of Plymouth development needs should fit within the short-term and long-term goals. I believe we have to develop maturely for the future while respecting and honoring our past without giving up our historical traditions and norms of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilkinson.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Madam Chair. My name is Scott Hokinson. I'm a 23-year resident of Plymouth. I'm raising 5 children here, and I own a few businesses here in town. I am very involved in the town, vice chair of the Chamber of Commerce right now. I've been involved with the Plymouth Antiquarian, Boys and Girls Club, and a number of other charities here in town. So my work has been, my commitment to the community has been a lot on the charity side, and I would like to get more involved with the town specifically. And this was, to be honest with you, a nice, forgive me, with his passing, but it would be a great way for me to introduce myself to the town over a short period of time between now and April. The town would get to know me better, and for me to get to know the town better and see if we both like this process. So I've never been a politician and never had to ask for a vote for somebody. I have asked for people for donations for charities, so I'm guessing both are equally difficult to do. So really appreciate your time and efforts. I promise I will come respecting the town. I'm raising children here and running a business here, so I come with a unique perspective of preserving what we need in town and also respecting the business community as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, how would you like to proceed?
What I'd like to do is give the ability of any of the members to ask the candidates any questions, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Just for clarity, and could you tell the public, Mr. Grandy, this appointment will be for how long?
The appointment for this is a replacement of a member, Paul McCall, who served this community for over 20 years. So the position we're filling this evening will only run until the next election, which is 6 or 7 months from this time frame. And after that, we will have an election in the town for a 5-year seat and the remainder of Mr. McCall's term, which I believe is 1 year.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any of the members like to ask the candidates any questions?
Through the chair, this is Brigitte. It's very hard for those on Zoom to hear you, Mr. Grandy, and I'm hoping I can hear Mr. Mann and Mr. Bulletin better.
I'll try to enunciate. Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you, Frank. I just wasn't able to hear Tim.
Okay. So I'll ask some similar questions to both, but first, Mr. Hokinson, in reverse order, I guess. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, Hokinson? Yes. In your letter of interest / resume, you note that you are a huge proponent of the master plan. Can you elaborate on that?
I've followed what the town is trying to do, and I guess I don't know how to want to protect so many of the big projects we have upcoming. And I think we have a lot of good transitions, a lot of transitions coming that the planning board is going to have to be involved in over the next 5 years, specifically the nuclear plant. We have the county area across from Home Depot. And obviously, the regular sentiment from everybody in town on the 52B developments, and how those relate to our school program, you know, in the capacity of our school programs, and how that relates to, you know, our taxes and the different, you know, protections on both sides. Once again, I am a beneficiary of a student who requires a lot of resources from the school in the special ed department, and as we add more of these developments, we have to be aware of what that does to the rest of us. You know, and like, again, I'm a consumer of that with 5 children here in town.
Okay. You note in your resume as well that, or your comments, that you work with hundreds of local businesses.
Yes.
But does that present a potential conflict of interest?
It probably could at times, and I'd have to, you know, disclose that. You know, I sell health insurance to employers in town. I have 800 clients, primarily in Plymouth County. So not only Plymouth companies, but there might be local, you know, outside of Plymouth companies that want to develop here in town, and I'd have to disclose that. It was the first question I asked when I, you know, asked some questions of people in this room of, you know, me being part of this. How does that affect it?
I know this has come up suddenly with this opening, but have you shown interest in the planning board in the past? Have you attended meetings either via Zoom or in person? And if so, what issues interest you the most that you saw during those meetings?
So the last time I have not attended in person to any of the meetings, and I guess the issue that probably interested me the most when I moved into town is obviously the development of the Pine Hills, which is obviously, you know, 20-something years ago. That was probably the last one that I followed closely.
So you seem to suggest that you're in a checking out the process as well as the town checking you out. So you're not committed to running for the full term next year?
I have not committed to running for the full term next year. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I want to make that very clear, you know, that was, that part of my interest in the seat was the short-term commitment.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Should I continue with? Yeah. So, Mr. Donaldson, some of the same, a little different. Your resume and application speaks of an interest in 3 different positions. It talks about the planning board, the zoning board, and the historic district commission. Are you looking for any and all? Are you looking?
No.
Are you mostly interested in one or another?
I'm mostly interested in the planning board as more in, I guess my second choice would be the zoning board, and that's based upon my background and the things that I've done.
So I'd also ask what I asked Mr. Hokinson about attendance in the past. If you've either via Zoom or in person attended any planning board meetings, and if so, any issues or things that came up that caught your interest?
Yeah, so I have in the past been on a Zoom, and I also get the emails from the planning board that, you know, the things that have corresponded and things like that, so I can stay in touch. The biggest thing I think that was more of an issue of concern for me was with the nuclear power plant, since that I live on the water in Manamet. So I think the whole issue of, you know, what's going to be dumped into the water in that area and things like that, and I've done some research and looked at the scientific analysis of, like, you know, the parts per millimeter, and that will be going in over the course of time and things like that. So I can actually talk to my other neighbors when it goes a little bit too far in the conversation, and so I try to keep myself abreast of a lot of the things that's happening in town.
Okay. What do you see as the chief role of a planning board member?
The chief role is to make sure that we are making decisions that are in the best interest of the town, based upon the charter that's given to us, or the city plan, the city master plan, and as well as, we're in compliance with any rules or regulations that may involve the development, whether it's small or big.
And if you are appointed to this position, would you seek election
Yes.
next year? You would?
Yes.
Thank you.
Steve?
For me, or?
I'm gonna start with you because you're
Okay.
standing there. So, from your observations, what do you see as the role of the planning board as part of town government?
I would say the role would be to make the decisions or vote on the decisions that is going to be, like I said, for our long-term and short-term benefit for the town and for the people. My personal beliefs don't get into anything. Whatever the way the wind is blowing doesn't get into my decision making. My decision making would be based upon facts, data. Is it lawful? Does it meet the requirements of the zoning? And is it going to be in the best interests of our town based upon our master plan?
And what made you decide to go for your master's in planning?
Wow. So I had just got out of the military, and the economy was bad, and I decided to go back to school, and I used my GI Bill to do that. And really, I was interested in real estate, and I've always had that passion for that. And then looking at my background, that I couldn't actually kind of fully do the things that I wanted to do, and I still wanted to stay in government. And the best way to combine the both was to go for the master's in city planning. And my family has a background, not necessarily in politics, but being involved in the community in the city. And so I still had that urge, but I also hey, I love anything that has to do with, developing and building, and, I have my own projects that I've done and worked on, so I was like, let me combine the two.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Ms. Keene, do you have any questions for any of the candidates?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Grandy. So let me start again. I can't see my screen somehow.
I'm Mr. Donaldson, and I'm still here.
All right, somehow whoever is managing the screen has taken my view away of the room, but I'll try to compensate for that. Thank you, Mr. Donaldson, for your interest in the planning board. And I can tell you from experience, I haven't been here much longer than you have. And I know how daunting it can be to get involved in a town such as Plymouth that has such a rich history and the longevity of its volunteers and such. So I want to give you sort of kudos for having the courage to come up in front of us and say, you are interested and you have a skill set. But I do want to ask you about what the planning board is always expected to do, and it kind of sits in the background, and that is to balance between environmental issues and development of the town. It sits richly in our master plan. It will also be in our new master plan, but it's also part of the discussions that we have whether or not our bylaws and regulations directly address those issues. It always sits there. Can you comment on what I've just put in front of you?
Yes. And,
Now I can see.
for Massachusetts in any development, there's from the beginning of the ground level, there's always going to be an environmental assessment that has to be done. I've worked on some sustainability projects during my course of my studies, and the balance between environmental and development. Also, as a planner, we have to make sure the development is able to, if there's any measures to, one, prevent any environmental harm, or two, if there's some litigation or mediation or something that they can do to either improve, sustain, or better the environmental situation. So a perfect example would be if there's a developer that's building next to a marsh and they're asking for different setbacks or change to an environmental law, this and that. My question would be is, okay, if you get this, what are you going to do to mediate or do this that has to do with the environment? And that's not only for the environment. I think in any development, the town should be looking at, okay, this is going to be a benefit, but what type of benefit this is going to be for the town? Whether it's economical, environmental, social, cultural, or whatever. It shouldn't be just a check the box that this is a great idea. So that's how I think about it.
Thank you very much for your answer, and I'd like to also ask Mr. Hokinson if he could stand up and answer the same question, because I believe it's an important question for sitting on the planning board.
Well, first and foremost, I love the environment that Plymouth gives us. One of the projects I'm working on outside of this is working with Dave Gould and Chad Hunter and Stephen Cole on kelp farming and improving that business here in town, whether it's with me or just encouraging that. I just went to the Blue Green Conference last Monday and Tuesday here in town, which was amazing, where we got to hear about all the aquaculture that's going on in our harbor and what the potential is for that. So that's, we're probably not going to be building many buildings in the harbor, but it really, my commitment to protecting our environment. You can follow me on Facebook, catching my stripers, and every time saying just what Carl just said, can we just not put runoff there, please? Obviously being a big part of what we're all concerned about here in town. So I don't know how else to say it other than I am absolutely committed to protecting our environment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Grandy. I've finished my questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. I don't have any questions for the candidates other than a couple of comments.
Okay, thank you.
One, I want to say thank you to both of you for applying for the position. Being a member of the planning board is a very important position as far as working with everybody in the town. Most importantly, we work with the Board of Selectmen, so they are part of the planning for the entire town. We work with Mr. Hartman as the planning director, and we follow the zoning bylaws for the town. If I may correct you, it's not a city, okay, it's a town. I know you probably were in the city before, but it's the town of Plymouth, okay? So it's very important that we work and look at the environment, economics in the town, the quality of life for the residents that live here, and future planning. So look at the master plan, which is being worked on now by the master plan committees that are involved in the processes. The master plan is a guideline that we should be following to the best of our ability. So With that, again, I want to thank both of you for applying for the position and all the questions you heard from other members this evening. You'll be hearing if you run for a term and be elected by the residents of the town of Plymouth. So whichever one of you is selected this evening, please, I will welcome you as a planning board member. And if you're not selected, please continue to work for the town, whether that be on a steering committee, which sends advisory reports to the planning board. And they also have one member of the steering committees that's appointed by the Board of Selectmen. So if you're not appointed this evening, please continue to help the community by volunteering. And I very much appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do the board members have any questions or comments? Mr. Blitzer.
Yeah, I just have comments. I looked at both resumes, and I can tell you, you're both impressive candidates. And whoever doesn't get appointed, I hope that you please get on another committee or another board, because you both have great credentials. My comment tonight is for whoever gets appointed, and what I think the qualifications are is your personality. We need people that are open-minded, that are reasonable and respectful when they're dealing with developers as well as environmentalists. We don't want anybody that has a personal agenda on the board. You know, it's about what's in the best interests of the citizens of Plymouth. Not all developments hurt the environment, okay? And, you know, I'm big into economic development, and I'm not afraid to say that. And I think we have to work together, the developers, the environmentalists, to help the economy and the people of Plymouth. So whoever gets on, those are my words of wisdom. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to call for the vote, or would you like to do the honors?
I would like you to call for the vote, please.
Okay. We have one seat to fill, and the first candidate is Mr. Carl Donaldson. Oh, Bridgetta? I'm sorry.
She's voting.
Oh, she's voting for him. Yes. Two. Okay, and Mr. Hokinson. 2, 3, 4, 6. Congratulations, Mr. Hokinson, and Mr. Donaldson, please. We have 65 boards and committees. Pick one. You know, pick another one. Pick five. Right. And we appreciate both of you putting, you know, your name forward for these positions. Now, Mr. Chairman, is this an adjournment
Yes,
of the joint session with the planning board?
Yes, please. I'll entertain a motion from members to end the meeting this evening.
Motion to adjourn the planning board meeting. Second.
All in favor? Ms. Keen? That was a motion to adjourn.
I understand. Before we adjourn, I'd like to make this proposal to the select board. Because this was a very specific issue, just to have an interim appointment to the board, and you had introduced this as our yearly joint session, I'm hopeful that we can actually have a yearly joint session, possibly before the fall town warrant closes, so that we can have a joint session to discuss the warrant proposals and the workings of the planning board and the status of what we're working on. This was a little bit narrow and focused, and I'd like to have a bigger opportunity in the future. And yes, I vote to adjourn. Thank you.
Just so you know, Ms. Keen, that's underway. I've already spoken with the chair of the Board of Selectmen, and we're working on scheduling that.
Then I misunderstood Ms. Kavak saying this was our yearly meeting,
Yep.
but thank you.
All right. Planning board is now adjourned. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
All right, as we move forward, we have committee appointments. We have the Zoning Board of Appeals. There is, yes?
Madam Chair, a procedural question. As noted, Mr. Donaldson, in his email to us, put his name in for all of these. Are we going to be considering Mr. Donaldson, who is leaving, for these?
Well, I mean, he's not on the agenda, and I'm not sure why he's not on the agenda. And I know that his email did say that he showed interest, but let's see. Anthony, are there alternate positions for any of these boards that we have on tonight's agenda?
Madam Chair, there's a possibility of 2 potential alternate positions open for the Historic District Commission, dependent on how the board votes for the full voting position of the Historic District Commission. It could be either 1 or 2 alternate openings.
Okay, and now with Mr. Donaldson's interest, would he be put on that? I mean, we're not going to vote on the alternates this
Correct.
evening?
He did submit a letter of intent that includes Zoning Board of Appeals and also the Historic District Commission. So, yes, he would be available.
So we're going to fill the full seat tonight?
Correct.
And then the alternates will be at our next meeting?
Correct. Yep.
Great. Okay. Just so you know, Mr. Donaldson, you're welcome. So the Zoning Board of Appeals, 1 full seat. And we have 3 candidates, Mr. O'Reilly, Mr. Riccardi, and Mr. McLaughlin. Mr. O'Reilly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Kevin O'Reilly, and I have applied for the position on the Zoning Board. I appreciate your consideration. I think over the 30-plus years that I've been actively involved in one volunteer organization or another in this community, I've been able to work with all of you, whether it was the Nuclear Decommissioning Citizen Advisory Panel, the Chamber, Plymouth 400. I think you all know me as somebody that, well, I'm not afraid to speak my mind. I'm very fair. I believe in this community. I believe in doing what's right for this community. I understand that the Zoning Board plays an important role and has important guidelines through our zoning bylaws that we have to adhere to at all times. And I just said I'd like to appreciate your consideration and would appreciate your vote tonight.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. O'Reilly? No? No, thank you.
Thanks again.
Mr. Riccardi?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have an interest in the board because of I'd like to help serve the town and use my background for the betterment of development, for economic development. My background is I have a degree in civil engineering from Northeastern, and I've worked primarily through my career managing commercial projects for developers and owners. variety of developments from just small building restaurant retailers to multi-unit residential complexes, shopping malls, and which all would include parking garages, elaborate landscaping, been built on brownfields, all kinds of other varieties of areas, heavy areas of public use. And in the last 16 months, I've been one of the alternates on the Board of Appeals. And I've served on quite a few of the cases because I was the only alternate for the first year that I was on it. And during that time, I've developed a good relationship with, working with the chairman and the other members. And I'm looking to do more of that as a full-time member. And I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. And Mr. McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Attorney Stephen McLaughlin. I've been a resident of Plymouth for 17 years, since 2005. I've been practicing law mostly in Plymouth County since 1980, so I have 42 years of practice experience, and a lot of that is in land development and zoning. I have served for 3 years in the Town of Carver Zoning Board of Appeals, and I've served for 9 years on the Town of Hingham Zoning Board of Appeals. In Carver, it was basically the late 1980s to early 1990s, and in Hingham, it was from the late 1990s to the early 2000s. By virtue of my experience as an attorney and as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, I'm thoroughly familiar with the provisions of Chapter 40A, which is the zoning statute for the Commonwealth. And through my experience on those boards, I have heard literally hundreds of zoning cases. I've written dozens of zoning decisions, some of which have gone to the appeals court and have been upheld. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a unique board. It is a quasi-judicial board. It is not in any way a legislative group or board like the Planning Board is. The Planning Board proposes zoning bylaws, amends zoning bylaws, and presents those to town meeting. The function of the Zoning Board of Appeals is markedly different. As a quasi-judicial board, the Zoning Board hears presentations for special permits or variances or perhaps comprehensive permits, and then applies the facts to the existing zoning bylaws and the regulations and the statutes. It's not the role of the Zoning Board of Appeals to decide, gee, the zoning bylaws really shouldn't say that, or what the zoning bylaws should say is this. That's not the role of the zoning board. The role of the zoning board is to apply what other people have decided are going to be the zoning bylaws. That's a very important consideration, especially when dealing with the citizens of a town. Citizens of a town often have very strong opinions of proposals that are set before the Zoning Board of Appeals, especially in residential sections, but also in commercial proposals. And these people will come to the zoning board hearings with very strong opinions of what they think should happen or what they think shouldn't happen. And it's the role of the Zoning Board of Appeals to help educate everybody, the citizens as well as the applicants, to what the role is and what the rules of the game are and how the decision is going to be made based upon those bylaws, those statutes, those rules and regulations. In addition, a Zoning Board of Appeals is very, very frequently acting with other town boards, especially the Planning Board, Conservation Commission, or other town boards, even sometimes the Selectmen. And it's very important for members of the Zoning Board to understand there are various stakeholders coming into the Zoning Board of Appeals who want to be heard, who need to be heard, and need to leave with an understanding of they were heard and the decision was made with their input included and considered. So I think it's crucial for any member of the Zoning Board of Appeals that is appointed by the Board of Selectmen, to understand those very important considerations. I never go to or never undertake any hearing with any personal agenda. I never have and I never would, because I respect the fact that the zoning bylaws have been enacted and approved by people in other roles. It wouldn't be my role to say the bylaw is no good or the bylaw should be changed. That's up to other people. And I wouldn't take a personal interest or approach onto whether or not a proposal is good or bad. But I would try to help make a proposal better if that can be done within the rules and regulations and parameters of the zoning ordinance, zoning bylaws, and the statutes and the rules and regulations. So that's my history, my approach. I practice under the name of McLaughlin Law, Mediation, Conciliation, and Arbitration. And I think it's very important to bring those mediator skills and those conciliation skills into the public forum, the public hearing, so that hearings really can be done in a way that if there is tension, if there is disagreement, that tension and disagreement can be minimized to the greatest extent possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we will.
Couple of questions.
Oh, do you have any questions?
Mr. McLaughlin.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Hi, Mr. McLaughlin. So you've said you've been practicing since 1980 in Plymouth County.
Yeah, mostly Plymouth County for a while.
And you've lived here 17 years?
I've lived here since 2005, yes.
Okay. Have you been on any other boards or committees?
I have not been on any boards or committees in this
I
town.
just wonder what piqued your interest in getting on this, the zoning board at this point.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I'm just wondering what has piqued your interest in getting on the zoning board at this point in your career.
I'm 67 years old, and I
You're still young.
intentionally slowing down my practice, which included a lot of litigation. I'm not that young guy anymore that wants to take on those battles. And I'm focusing more on the mediation, conciliation, and arbitration. I've always greatly enjoyed being a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. With 9 years in Hingham, it was just a great experience. It's an opportunity to give the town the benefit of my experience, my legal knowledge, my experience in handling matters, resolving matters, deciding matters. And so my wife was the one who told me that this was open. She saw it on her email, and I immediately responded that same day. But I always enjoyed it. I know I would enjoy it here as well.
So when were you on the Hingham zoning? When was that? What years were those?
What was I?
The Hingham zoning board, zoning appeals?
Hingham Zoning Board of Appeals, over the course of the 9 years, we would alternate each year, the chairman, vice chairman.
Yeah, what years was that?
I believe it was 9 years, ended around 2005 when I came here.
Right.
So it was back in the late 1990s and early 2000s. So,
And then the last question is, have you appeared, have you represented before planning or zoning in Plymouth, any projects in Plymouth? Or
I
you have
don't recall
experience here?
ever appearing before the zoning board in Plymouth now.
And what about planning? Any
No.
boards in Plymouth? Okay,
No.
right. So, all right, thank you very much.
Any other questions, gentlemen? No? So we'll call for a vote. Mr. Kevin O'Reilly. Oh. 4. Mr. Phil Riccardi. 1. Mr. McLaughlin. 0. Congratulations, Mr. O'Reilly. And thank you to the others, and please look for boards and committees.
Please.
Our next appointment is the Historic District Commission, and there's 1 full seat. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that are applying for this one full seat. And as Mr. Sinesi mentioned earlier, that depending on how this vote goes, that there may be 1 to 2 alternate seats that will be coming up at our next meeting. So we have Mr. Darrell Lynch. I guess Mr. Lynch is not here. Okay. Mr. Ryan Veo.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
I'd just like to say thank you for the time and the consideration. I've been a resident of Plymouth for coming up on 8 years now. I've lived in North Plymouth, Manomet, and I'm currently building a house in Chiltonville. I've really come to fall in love with the town of Plymouth, the important role that it plays in the history of our country as a whole, and obviously especially the downtown historic district. My experience lies in construction. I'm a licensed general contractor. Most of the work that I have done and I'm currently doing is in town. I think that the mission and the purpose of the Historic Commission is an important one. We have an amazing historic downtown district that, like I said, plays a major role in not just Plymouth's history, but the history of our country in general. And I see it as a great opportunity to possibly be a part of that and maintaining the historic look and feel and importance of our downtown. So I would just like to thank you for the consideration.
Thank you. Oh, wait a minute, hold on just a second, I'm so sorry. Questions from the board members? Mr. Mahoney.
So, Mr. Veo, so I'll ask you a question, and I think there's 3 more candidates. We'll ask the same question of all 4 remaining candidates because the first one was not here. So, if you looked at the last town meeting a few weeks ago, the Community Preservation Committee had an article passed that some may consider or may not consider basically a Hail Mary with respect to a structure that sits just outside of the historical area. And it's over there on Union Street, and it's a building that dates back to 1857. So have you been paying attention? Are you up to date on what's going on in that issue? And then the second thing is, are you going to be willing to, embrace, work with Chair Tubin and the other members of the Historical District Commission to potentially bring a proposal forward to a future town meeting to expand the historical district?
I can't say that I'm completely up to date with that specific issue, but to the second part of your question, I would definitely be excited about, willing to, open to working with everybody to expand the historic district, whatever that might mean. There's a number of different areas in town that could be considered historic. I just went to Bill Fornashari's presentation last week on the estates of the Gilded Age in Plymouth, where I'm building over in Chiltonville was sat on what was the Forger's estate. So to your point of expansion, it isn't just the downtown historic district that means a lot to the history of Plymouth and the history of the country. There are definitely other parts of town that are of major significance from a historic standpoint. So
Thank
yes.
you.
Anyone else?
That was my question.
Oh, that was his question. Lucky you.
One question,
Oh.
Ryan. Tell us at what projects, you got one in Chiltonville, that you've worked on historic projects. You've had other ones that you've worked on?
Yes. So I've worked with my family, Meg Ryko, on a number of projects downtown in the historic district. The Armory building, the Registry building, most recently the Governor Bradford, and a few other smaller projects downtown.
So you understand what goes into these projects, what you can and can't do, and you understand all that, and the rules and regulations. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
sir.
Anyone else? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vecchi?
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. My name's Scott Vecchi. I was born in the town of Plymouth. I'm actually a member of the Mayflower Society, and we go back to 7 different programs. I'm also the current alternate member on the Historic District Commission. I've served as an alternate member on the Historic District Commission, sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied, since July of 2020. So just almost 2.5 years as an alternate member. During that time on the Historic District Commission, we've tackled a lot of difficult projects, including the condos that are currently residing behind Reliable Cleaners. We've dealt with the input that we could have on the project that you had mentioned before. There has been discussions about expanding the historic district. To deviate a little bit, just a little bit more on my background, like I said, I was born in the town of Plymouth. I'm also a licensed attorney and a licensed real estate broker, which brings a variety of knowledge that I try to use to assist on the Historic District Commission. When I was a kid in the 70s, I grew up downtown, so I possess a lot of institutional knowledge of the downtown area, as much as a little kid likes to wander around and get into trouble. And I've dedicated my life to service both of our country. I'm a retired gunnery sergeant of Marines, and to our town. I've been an employee of the town of Plymouth for 25 years. And I've served as a town meeting representative. I was appointed to the Charter Commission, the Charter Review Commission. I'm currently an elected member of the Charter Committee. I'm currently elected to the Charter Commission. And I'm also elected to the Plymouth Redevelopment Authority. So I have a lot of love for the town of Plymouth, and I dedicate a lot of my time to the town of Plymouth, including the Historic District Commission. Again, we've tackled some pretty important projects in the recent history that I've been on the board. I think that my input has always been positive in working with all the other members of the commission to do what's best for the town of Plymouth. I very much am in favor of working towards expanding the historic district. In my opinion, it should at least go down to Stevens Field to the south and up to at least Nelson Street in the north, if not further north, as there's a lot of history out in North Plymouth just from the cordage company and some of the buildings that relate back to that huge industry, where at one point the majority of the population of the town of Plymouth lived north of Chilton Street. And like I said, the last appointments that came before, I was unaware at the time that as a alternate member, I had to reapply for the position when the last 2 full-time members were appointed. So I kind of missed the boat on that one. But I am before you today as an active member of the Historic District Commission asking to be appointed to the full voting seat.
Thank you. Any questions? No, thank you. Mr. Lodi.
Hi, Steve Lodi, lifelong resident of Plymouth, all but, I'm dating myself, but probably 25 to 27 years when I lived in the Boston area. I have a very deep-rooted love and passion for the history of our town. I'm very connected to it. I probably don't have as robust a background as some of these folks, but I work for an affordable housing developer, and I cover the greater Boston and mid-Atlantic region, which includes Washington, D.C., Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Maryland, and all the surrounding towns in the Boston area, Connecticut and Rhode Island. And through my work, I've had the opportunity to touch some preservation projects, not directly, but indirectly, because I'm on the management side of these deals. And I've had the opportunity to be involved in a preservation project in the Channel Center area of Boston, which is converted into artist studios, Midway Studios. the Baker Chocolate Factory in the Administrative Building in Lower Mills, Dorchester, Westminster Lofts, which was the Peerless department store in Rhode Island. I just have a great passion for preservation, for the fabric that makes up our town. And I have demonstrated track record in this industry that I work in after 33 years, and in particular the company that I work for now, of collaborative work to come to the best solutions and choices for a town, choices to be made for any particular circumstance. I would love the opportunity to give back. I have, to answer other questions that I've heard you ask others, I've not had an opportunity to volunteer on anything yet. I'm at a point in my career where I've made a conscious decision to step back a little bit from the long hours at work and dedicate myself to other passions, and one of them is the town of Plymouth.
Thank you. Any questions?
Stephen, I had a question with respect to a potential expansion of the historical district area.
Like Mr. Vecchi, I feel strongly about the North Plymouth area, too. I think there are opportunities to expand and preserve other, beyond the current footprint of the Historic District Commission. I think there's still opportunity to protect other architectural assets in the neighborhood, and I agree. I had the opportunity to go to first and second grade at the Oak Street School, so a two-room schoolhouse, and I lived right next door, 1882 Victorian, and it's still in the family since 1941. So I think there's other opportunities in town, yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, sir. And Kate Sekarak. Did I say that right?
Sekarak.
Sekarak, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Kate Sekarak. I have lived in Plymouth for almost 19 years on Bradford Street. I am a lifelong South Shore resident, but very new to the government process. I am a founding member of the Bradford Area Commission, which was the efforts begun by our neighborhood to work with the new owners of the marina to help preserve and restore, potentially, the old foundry building. After a year of getting to a point of pretty relative success, while there's much to do, in that process, I found that there were areas of our town that are definitely in jeopardy. I'd like to expand the historic district, see that expanded, to include the Bradford area neighborhood, to at least Stevens Field, and to tell a complete story of what the waterfront history is. I've begun the process, it's a lengthy process, of understanding the necessary studies, the documentation, the presentation, and the community commitment that this involves. This is a major undertaking. Following the demolition delay bylaw, which was successfully put into place by the Historic District Commission, I began to attend their meetings on a somewhat regular basis to understand more about what it was that they did, what the process was. In general, it was just interesting to me. So whether it was the idea of, what windows were being replaced in an historical home, or whether it was something, as major as the project that we undertook, I just found it interesting. But what I did observe, among other things, was that there are other neighborhoods in town that are definitely facing the threat of significant change without some kind of guidelines in place. Those being specifically Whitehorse Beach. There was discussion of taking down a cottage, which may seem benign, except that, when you say, well, we're going to rebuild on the footprint, it's still a brand-new house, and just because it's been neglected for 50 years doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be destroyed. There are other areas as well, North Plymouth, Chiltonville. I'd like to become a part of the Historic District Commission to help with the expansion and also help residents appreciate what it means to live in an historic area. To help residents understand what all the positive implications are and dispel the myths that you're going to be told to fix up your house and paint it khaki green, because I think that that's automatically what folks are going to think when, if they think that, they want to, invade our neighborhood and expand the historic district, there's going to be a lot of delicate conversations to have. And I realize in doing some of this preliminary study work that it's going to be tough. It's going to take some conversations and a lot of discussion and education, maybe some walking tours, et cetera. The earliest historic districts were created in Beacon Hill, Nantucket. All of Nantucket is a historic district. Lexington and Concord. And it seems that Plymouth was a little late in the game, but there's so much more to be accomplished to keep the town significant and allow development that allows us to move forward in prosperity, but also preserves history in our mind and in view. So this opportunity, I feel, is timely because we've seen recent projects that have been completed that don't necessarily fit into the village-scapes, and landmarks that have been removed, and homes that are changing the neighborhood-scape now forever. So I find myself sort of a reluctant applicant, honestly. But I think it's important and it's fascinating, and whether I'm elected to a permanent seat, an alternate seat, I'm going to keep going to the Historic District Commission meetings because it's interesting to me, and I'll keep trying to understand, and of course I'll keep working as a member of the Bradford Area Commission, of course, towards the Foundry project, which is first and foremost the most important thing for our group right now, but there's certainly a big picture as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, just one comment. The historic commission is very important to our tourism industry, preserving. A good example. The Spire is being restored right now, and when that's done, that's going to be the center of attention besides the town hall right here, and it's going to be a huge boon for the tourism. I mean, I see people now taking pictures of it. They were taking pictures when there was scaffolding on it, and wait till it's beautified. So we want to expand for that reason and to make it a bigger area, but it's very important for tourism. A house on White Horse Beach doesn't really fall into that. That's kind of out of that's a different board. But I just want you to know how important this commission. It's a very important commission. And
Yes, and with respect, I agree.
you saw it down at Bradford. It's how important to you guys that building is.
It is.
The facade of
It
that
is.
building.
And I feel like, there are other places in town that have so much history. And,
No,
White Horse Beach is one of them. There's
But
all those
I don't know about a
cottages
cottage in
and-
White Horse
And I
Beach,
know,
but-
I know that it's not a tourist draw, but I think.
But and it's very important to the residents of Plymouth, if you saw the response at town meeting. I mean,
Yes.
Spire was 125-2, I think it was,
Mhm.
the votes. And actually, it had to be more than that, because it was 125-2. And I think the same thing for the project
Yes.
down in Bradford, so.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
anyway.
we're really pleased with that. We're very
So-
proud. Yeah. So
Well-
hopefully
Oh, keep fighting.
We will keep fighting.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
Anyone else? And we'll call for the vote. Oh.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So just for clarification here, one vote, we can't put whatever we do, the other 1 or 2 seats to bed tonight.
No.
We've got to post that and come back at a future date.
Yes.
That's right. Those positions haven't been advertised, so we have to reopen those seats.
Okay.
We good?
I'm good.
Okay. Darrell Lynch. 0. Ryan Veo.
Roll call.
Roll call. Mr. Blitzer? Yes.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
No.
Mr. Helm? I forgot your name there for a minute.
No.
3 votes for Mr. Veo. Mr. Vecchi? No votes.
No. 1.
1, okay. 1 vote. Mr. Lodi? No votes. And Ms. Sekerick?
Yes.
1 vote. Okay, Mr. Veo, congratulations. And the other positions will be posted as alternates. I'm hoping for the next meeting? Yes? Okay. Thank you. Okay. The next order of business on the agenda is holiday tree on town green. Discussion and vote anticipated.
Sure. To the board, although Halloween just ended last night, we are here this evening to talk about the location of the holiday tree for the December holiday time period. So as you all know, for the past number of years, the holiday tree has been erected over at Town Square. We have received numerous and dozens of requests, I would say mostly from local businesses, asking the board to consider relocating the holiday tree and the holiday festivities to the green in front of Town Hall. The reason why we're asking for consideration this evening is because if the board were to approve this, we need substantial lead time in order to prepare the area for a tree. Right now, the Parks Director has already identified a 40-foot tree for this year, so it's going to take some work in order to have that area prepared for this large tree. So that's the reason for this agenda item this evening, and I'll turn it back to the board.
Great.
You want a motion for
I
discussion?
do you, any questions or anything?
Well, we can discuss it.
Well, actually,
Mr. Helm?
if I can get this to, it actually worked the first time. Mr. Brindisi, given this proposal to move this onto the town hall grounds, have you discussed, and given the recent issues around flying a flag on the flagpole that tree will be very closely located to, have you spoken with our council? Because I do know there's been an organization that has been attempted to have a menorah displayed for a number of years. Have you spoken to council about the ramifications of moving a Christmas tree to the town hall?
So we've actually done some research, and I actually have talked to town council regarding this very issue, and council has opined that holiday trees, or Christmas trees, some call them, are actually considered not a religious item, but it's considered a tradition as far as U.S. culture. So it's not considered a religious type of event, and there's case law on that.
Thank you.
Well, I think there's no better place than right in front of Town Hall to have a 40-foot tree. And my understanding is it's difficult for our police department to mitigate the traffic in the other locations. So I think this is a much easier location. And the businesses actually have been the ones asking to be able to move that because it really kind of centers the town hall, the downtown business district. So I'm thrilled about it. I wish we had done it years ago. John?
Yeah, Derek, I just want to make sure that we do a little bit more of investigative legwork with respect to, I mean, when we undertook took this project, I don't know how much they dug out there on the lawn. There is a stone or I believe a memorial to veterans out there. And then, you know, a 40-foot tree is pretty large. So I just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can, that we make sure that there's no permanent damage done out there. And I don't know if it's the veterans or whoever, you know, make sure that they're communicated to with respect to what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm happy to work through our veterans agent to reach out to the veterans groups that are out there to make sure that we're not missing the mark on that area. I'd have to say, though, you know, having talked to the DPW director, they're certainly going to disturb the front lawn. I mean, and to the point where we'll probably, the area that's disturbed, have to lumen seed it in the spring. We have an irrigation system out there. We don't expect the irrigation system to be damaged, but having the irrigation system, we believe the lawn will be restored next spring.
Great. Mr. Blitzer?
Ever since we built a beautiful town hall here in the center of town, which was going to revitalize our downtown, that's what we talked about, and it's beautiful. I've been wondering why we haven't had our Christmas tree out here, or a holiday tree, Christmas tree, since we opened. It's finally going to come to fruition, and I think it's great. It'll be the focal point of the downtown. There's going to get a lot more exposure, okay? People can come to the businesses, then go see the Christmas tree, and, you know, I just think we need to do a lot more with in front of this town hall, because it is right in a business district, right in the center of it. So I'm excited about this. It's going to be probably a 3-foot sleeve in the ground. I don't think it's going to do much damage. And we vetted it through legal. It's legal, and I think we're going to get a great response. For having this tree. So anyway,
thank you.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Hold on a minute.
Nope? Okay.
Mr. Quintal, your hand is raised, but I'm not sure if it's just hanging there from another.
No, it's not, Madam Chairman.
Okay.
I also think it's a great idea to put the holiday tree there. Last year, actually, we had a holiday tree in the foyer of Town Hall for the first time. And previously, the old Town Hall on Lincoln Street, I used to decorate the entire building inside every holiday season. I would be polite and use the holiday season out of respect for all. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's great and good idea, whoever thought of it. Thank you.
And maybe we can get Santa Claus to show up maybe at one of the Saturdays, or who knows, maybe even for the parade. You know, you never know. It's be a good spot. When is the tree going to go up? When will it go up?
I'm not sure the date the tree will go up. I believe,
Probably
what I
not
was
the
told today, the
Thanksgiving
tree
parade.
lighting ceremony is the first Friday in December, which this year
Right.
would be
Yeah,
December
okay.
2nd.
So maybe one of those Saturdays we can get Santa out there. Be nice. So.
Well, you better call him.
Butchie makes a nice Santa Claus, Butchie Machado.
Yeah, if we can get him out of Florida.
We can.
So, and just to bring, you know, the whole holiday traditions, and yesterday was the first time our town hall was involved in the Halloween on Main Street, and the employees, they decorated all the offices, they were all dressed up. The kids absolutely loved coming here, and I hope it's something that we can get the tradition to continue, because it brought in such a sense of community, and that's really why we're here, is to serve the community. So, you know, it doesn't always have to be bad. It doesn't always, you know, have to be something that people are unhappy about. And I know I got a message from a little friend that I did a Girl Scout meeting with when I was able to take the Girl Scouts through the building and stuff, and they were looking for me, and unfortunately I wasn't here. So, but I think it's a great direction that the town's going in, and hopefully we'll continue that way. So I'll make the motion to accept the holiday tree to move in front of Town Hall.
Second.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Have fun with your tree, Derek.
Thank you.
Now, town manager's American Cruise Line is tabled.
We're going to table that again for another week.
Now, the town manager's report.
Sure. So not a lot to report today. The vast majority of my comments were directed under the update relative to the migrant relocation here in town. And now that the chair took my thunder regarding the Halloween update, I just wanted to just mention that, though. I can say that everything that the chair just mentioned, every floor was decorated. All of the town offices really got excited about having the opportunity to open town hall to the community, specifically the children, around the holiday event. They gave out hundreds of candy to all the children. In fact, one individual told me they heard a couple of parents walking out and saying next year the only thing they're going to do for their children is come to town hall just to do trick-or-treating inside town hall. So this was year one, and I'm sure like every other year things get bigger and bigger. And you know, I would say the morale around town hall yesterday was extremely high with all the employees. So it was a good event. So you know, I appreciate the board supporting the town and allowing them to do those types of events.
And I'd like to also give a shout out to the merchants, the whole downtown. The pictures I saw were unbelievable. Lee Filson out there, our tourism, the Chamber of Commerce, all the merchants in downtown made this thing a huge success. It's going to get better, as you say, every year, and you know, Town Hall was all part of it, so it's very exciting. So this could be a new tradition that's going to get bigger and bigger. I mean, we've been doing it for years, but not to this extent what I saw this year. So great job, everybody.
And Town Hall is just a great location. I mean, it's really in the center of our business district, and so you know, why not participate? Whether it's the Halloween event the chamber puts on or any other event in the future. So, you know, we're hoping that we can participate in all other future events. So, the Human Resources Department in particular, they did a great job. Our HR director really pulling this together, engaging the staff on a regular basis, making it fun for folks, actually creating even a competition amongst the ranks. So well done by everybody. So just a couple quick updates. The floats down at the harbor are coming out. So the Harbor Master's office is starting to prepare for winter. You'll see the floats be the first step they take towards those preparations. We plan to see the floats coming out this Friday. You'll see here on Court and Main, the bump outs will be removed by the DPW this week as well, so we'll start to see that breakdown. In addition, the Commerce Way has been long. We've been trying to get that paved, so that'll be paved this coming week as well. And then last, I know the board has been asking to start to dispose of some of the property. We talked about the disposition of land prior to the special town meeting in June. To Mr. Brothers' credit, we now have the IFB, so the bid will be issued for 253 South Meadow. That's been issued today. It'll close on November 30th, which at that time we'll have the bid opening. So more to come on that. We'll keep you posted on what we get for the highest bid amount. So pending any questions, that's all I have for this evening.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Brandisi? Looks like Mr. Quintel's going to have to buy more than 50 pounds of candy for next year, because he did donate 50 pounds of candy to Town Hall for for the Halloween. Mr. Quinto.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I'd be more than happy to, as long as I'm able. But at this time, I'm going to ask you if I can sign off. I've had an exhausting day today, and I'm running out of gas. So if it's all right with you, I'd like to sign off and catch you in a couple weeks.
Please do, and take care of yourself and get some rest.
Thank you.
Okay, Select Board, open discussion, new business, letters, or old business? Do we have any? Okay. License and administrative notes. Does anyone have any questions on any of the license and administrative notes? If not, I would like them moved as a group.
Make the motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? We also have a change of manager liquor license, 110 Grill, CWP Plymouth LLC, 53-1 Commerce Way is requesting a change of manager from Brittany Bierce to Sydney Andrade.
Move approval. Second.
Motion by Mr. Mahoney, seconded by Mr. Helm. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Poll petition, Eversource Energy Work Order 7999777. One petition covering the installation of conduit on Wareham Road. This construction is to accommodate a new pump station on Wareham Road. Do we have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. And now there's a motion to adjourn.
Bypass. Were you going to come back to public comment? Did you have that earlier?
I am so sorry. I did not. I did bypass public comment. Is there a public comment? Any public comment? I guess not.
Move to adjourn.
Okay. There's a motion. Second. All those in favor? Wonderful. It's unanimous.